Welcome, everybody, to Patriots Draft Countdown, presented by Bud Light. We are coming to you from the 2026 Scouting Combine here in Indianapolis, and we're getting things started. I came a little bit late.
Look who's here.
Weather, sure, if you're in New England, you experienced some of that, but we are here. This is my sixth Combine. Very excited, and especially this year. We got to talk to Mike Vrabel today.
Yes.
Got to talk to some other people as well. We'll have those interviews coming up for you, but first things first. Today was a big day for me because it was the defensive front seven. It's the linebackers. It's the defensive tackles. It's the edges. All positions of varying needs, especially edge, though. And I got to start off the top. We heard R. Mason Thomas's name mentioned a couple times. He's a guy that plays with that Mike Vrabel style, hair on fire, balls to the wall. Not only him, but there's a number of guys. Akeem Mesidor, another one that pops up. But some options potentially for the Patriots in this edge class at the end of the first round.
Yeah, we've talked to multiple people now here at the Combine on the Patriots organization, whether it's Elliott Wolf or Mike Vrabel. They all have pointed to this edge class as a position of depth and strength in this draft class. So that seems to be kind of the buzz of the Combine right now, is how many different edge rushers there are. Maybe some saying as many as 20 in the top 100 could go in this draft. So it's a big number. And I think the two parts of that, though, are it's a flavors thing, right? You know, which ice cream flavor is it that you want in terms of the skill sets, but also, you know, when is the best time to pounce on one of those guys? Because there is so much depth, do you wait till day 2 of the draft and let it kind of fall to you, or do you take a player up there at 31? So there's a bunch of different options. You know, I'll just throw Cassius Howell in there as well from Texas A&M, who, we might do the short arms thing again with him. So yay, good lucky us. But yeah, there's so many different things that go into it in terms of play style, body type that could make an edge rusher a Patriot edge rusher, but not a people next to us, the Chiefs edge rushers, the Raiders. Everybody's got a different kind of thing.
Yeah, hey, Raiders edge rusher. Maybe we could work out a deal for.
We've been
Max
trying to
Crosby.
negotiate that.
I don't know if their content team can make that deal, but we'll get to work on that. So Mike Vrabel did take to the podium today as well. We got a chance to talk to him, but some of the things that stood out from the podium portion, because you guys will see our interview with him in a second. Two things I want to highlight, Ev. One was that, and it's something I kind of thought too, was the tight end class. And we know Mike Vrabel played a little tight end, so maybe he's got an eye for those tight ends, but it's position of need. Austin Hooper is a free agent. Hunter Henry getting up there a little bit. Love to add some, young athleticism there. I know Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon is atop that list. He's hyper athletic and a really intriguing player for me. Maybe he gets through the cracks, but I also look at guys like Max Clare from Ohio State. Like some of these lower-end prospects, I don't want to call them lower-end, they're more mid-round, but it seems like those guys stood out to Vrabel too. I just listen to what he says, and when he points in a direction, I'm going to look even closer at that tight end class now. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that definitely stood out to me, and I think that even talking to Elliott Wolf yesterday too, just putting them together, a lot of talk about, well, Morgan Moses is a great player, but he's 35. I assume they kind of feel the same way about Hunter Henry, great player, but going to be 32 years old next season. So that position, it's not necessarily that they need a starter at that position right away, but they need to start thinking about the next chapter at tight end. And also, I would say, like you mentioned, maybe a little bit more youth in the legs, a little bit more explosiveness, a little bit more juice. The one thing that I really wonder, kind of like the edge rusher conversation, is how much do they prioritize upgrading inline blocking versus receiving upside? Because in this draft, there are a pretty good amount in that, let's call it 60 to 150 range. There's going to be a cluster of tight ends that's going to go in that range of the draft. It's kind of like Sadiq at the top, big gap, and then everybody else. But once everybody else starts going, there's going to be a run, and you have to get in on the run. When you look at that group, it's obviously not going to be a lot of like two-way players like a Tyler Warren that can do everything, right? If he did, he'd be going in the first round. So it's receiving types. You mentioned, like a Max Clare or Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt or Oscar Delp from Georgia. 6'3", 245 guys that catch the football. Then you have like blocking tight ends that don't really catch the football but can really block. And so where do the Patriots prioritize that? I think is going to be fascinating because, maybe that depth that Mike Vrabel pointed to, maybe they're thinking double dip, and get a both, get one of each.
Yeah.
That sort of thing as well.
Yeah, the other thing that stood out to me from Vrabel at the podium was just challenging his coaches to, continue to evolve and to find new things. It's something I love. I mean, the comp we've kind of talked about on Patriots Unfiltered is when the 03 Patriots went out and got Corey Dillon and, continued to change the equation and improve and not just be, the 03 Patriots are back. We got it's a different team. We all look at the schedule. We know it's going to be a tougher road. When we talked to Vrabel, we mentioned going to Seattle. I mean, it's on everybody's mind that it's going to be a tougher task this year. But I'm very curious to see what the coaches might come back with. And I know it's something that we've talked plenty about, looking for innovation, ways to get different. Vrabel pointed to the college game, the high school game, something maybe they could bring up. Anything maybe that pops to mind, areas they can explore?
Maybe that's an off-the-record conversation we can have where I'm like, hey, just tell me, what are you going to do? No, but I think the biggest thing that stood out to me, because we had a local media scrum with him just now that he also did that I'm sure we'll write about and everything like that. But he said that one of the things that they have talked about is the amount of disguise that defenses are playing with nowadays. And I think it's important to mention it's not just coverage disguise, it's also pass rush disguise. You have guys up at the line of scrimmage and you don't know who's dropping and who's coming, and how that can mess with protections is also a part of disguise. And I think we often think about it as coverage disguise, but there's also now a ton of pass rush disguise too. And there's better ways to maybe handle that, I think, is something that they're going to try to look into. Now, Vrabel did say, look, we're not going to reinvent the whole offense here. We're talking about making a few tweaks here and there, maybe one or two ideas, not 10. But at the same time, that did stand out to him and stood out to, I think, everybody, especially with Seattle's defense. They just are sending and dropping and doing things from all different directions. And I think the Patriots need to get better at handling those things.
Yeah, so a whole lot of Mike Vrabel today. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into our interview with him. Here's the sit down right now. All right, Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel joins us now. Coach, thanks for joining us. And you're doing a car wash here. Evan and I, we don't get up early enough to talk to you during the season. I think the last time we talked to you was here at the Combine. Have you had a chance to process that last year?
You guys can ask questions. I do a press conference twice a week. You guys are free to. You're free to ask questions there.
We don't get you one-on-one like this, though. But have you had a chance to process this last year yet?
Probably not. I just keep it moving and figure out what we need to do next. I think that's what we've done since we started a little over a year ago. So the idea is just kind of figure out what we need to do for the team and go about doing it.
Does Combine help with that at all?
Of course.
Getting something new, another event?
Yeah, because everybody's here. We have, most of our staff here and, the personnel staff and some of the coaches have come in. We're excited about going to dinner tonight before the meeting. So, Miss Nancy Myers sets that up, and that'll be a great thing here tonight that we'll be able to do. Have great dinner with everybody that's in, and then we'll head over to the interviews.
Are you a St. Elmo's guy, Prime 47?
I'm a steak guy. I don't discriminate. The shrimp cocktails all got spicy horseradish sauce, and I don't discriminate.
All right,
steak is steak.
What's the last couple weeks looked like for you personally, just obviously coming off the Super Bowl?
Well, you try to visit with the players and coaches and try to figure out what the staff needs and the adjustments that you make with the staff, and try to take a little bit of time. I went skiing with Carter. Went skiing for 3 days with him, and that was enough. I got wore out.
No injuries?
No injuries. But just try to make some time for family, but also make time for work and this football team.
No, you got to start over at the beginning every year, but is there some things that you can take from that season you feel like you established?
And I don't know if it's starting over from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think you have to start over from, the things that you feel really, really confident about moving forward and that you want to build with and kind of go from there. And then, add the pieces and look to the draft and look to free agency and, who can you develop and what can you get out of, somebody else that maybe you didn't think that you had in them or he didn't think he had in himself. And, but those will be things that we'll do here moving forward just with our current team and then what it looks like going forward with the pieces that we add.
I wanted to just ask you a little bit about the staff. Obviously, Zach, being promoted here, defensive coordinator. Just what did you see as an assistant that you thought he could call plays, he'd be a good DC?
I just thought, a very intelligent football coach. Had an offensive background that when he came to Tennessee provided us with a lot of information when we were in those defensive meeting rooms on, hey, this is what they're trying to do. This is what bothers or maybe forces them to do something differently. And so that's how his role started. And then he progressed to a defensive coach, handled our red zone, installation and the presentation and the conversations, and he continued to grow. And then when he got here, it just was obvious from an early time when Big T was working through some stuff that Zach was capable of leading, and also improved each and every week.
You've been a defensive coordinator. What is the biggest challenge of having, can you imagine yourself jumping into that job kind of unexpectedly?
Well, I think as a position coach, you're always thinking about that. And I think that when you try to think about that, like, hey, what would I call here? What adjustment, or what do we have to be careful of here? You're always just trying to train and sharpen and think about that. Now, whether that matches up or marries up with the play caller, that may not always happen. But you're always in your head thinking about, that's the way that you have to look at it. Just as the same way as you're sitting there and you're thinking about, hey, this is what the head coach wants to do. Is this what I would do? And I'm going to support this as a position coach or a coordinator. I'm going to support it. But is this what I would do? Most of the time it is. Sometimes it looks a little different. So when you get your opportunity, you can do those things.
When it comes to Terrell, you mentioned at the podium just a few minutes ago that you have a vision for his role. Can you just share any insight into what that vision might look like?
It's going to be a strong role on the defense. Like, he is going to act as a coordinator and presenting information and ideas, and bringing us the front and making sure that we're really solid across the front from our edges to the interior. We've got some guys inside that I think can continue to develop and grow. Whether that's Milt or Christian or anybody else, I think that those guys can continue to get better. And Terrell's going to have a large hand in that, but he's also going to be able to help me and extend, being an extension of me throughout our program.
I know you haven't jumped in too much on the draft yet, but do you enjoy that process? Do you gravitate towards maybe position you played, or do you like it? Do you have fun with trying to find these kids and
of course.
Find players that can help
it's
you?
important. The draft is, has to be the cornerstone of your your team, and it's the youth, and you put a lot of time into these guys. We spend a lot of time with the draft guys, and then the free agents. If you don't know something about them, sometimes you don't know what you're getting. But we have a lot of knowledge of these guys, and you're excited when you're able to get them, and whether you trade up for them, they're there when you pick, or you trade back and a guy's there. So. We have to continue to draft well, and we have to continue to develop, because that's the only way that you can sustain the success that we envision.
One of the players I wanted to ask you about on your own team is Christian Gonzalez.
Sure.
And, has up for this extension maybe this offseason. What do you just see in him, and do you want to make an extension happen with him?
We want to go. Yeah, we obviously want to move forward with all our best players. I think that's something that I would want, and I know that Elliot wants, and Ryan wants, and Stretch wants, and Robert and Jonathan and our fans want. They want our best players to be on our team, as long as they're really good players. Again, I thought he got better. I thought he played his best football down the stretch, and I thought that that was good to see. I talked about that, and that was something that Gonzo and I would talk about and share. And he is he's a talented player, and I've pushed him and asked him if he wants to strive to be a captain, and he said that he does, and I'm going to help him try to get there. And I want him to come back with that mindset of not only being an elite player, but also being an elite leader and an elite teammate, which he is an elite teammate, but being able to push these guys and communicate and use his intelligence and what he sees on the field, be able to help other guys.
Just one more for me, Mike. I thought it was really interesting at the podium. You said you're challenging your coaches to bring you something new this offseason. Is there anything else that you feel like you're kind of adjusting year two that you need to make to maybe course correct, or just changes?
No, not course correct. We have to lift. We have to get stronger. When you have a young football team, you have to understand that this is a grown man sport. There's a bunch of big men out there playing this game, and so I want to make sure that our players understand how important their physical development is. They may be skilled, but we have some guys that, our team, like, everybody's at a different level. Like, where one player is at 12 years into his career and another player is in his second year. Like, here's what I always say. Like, nobody talks about Tom Brady in 2001 and 2000 and how he changed his body and he maximized his God-given genetic ability. Everybody talks about TB12 and the pliability. They don't talk about how hard he worked in the weight room, and he lifted with the tight ends and the linebackers, and he squatted and he hang clean, and he did all those things to make his body the best that it could be for him to play quarterback and to compete and once his opportunity came. So I think that's always a good reminder. I was just looking at what, how hard this player worked and what people thought it was. But, some of us that were there, we got to see that. And, I think that's just a good reminder that as a young player, you can still make a lot of gains once you started your career.
Kind of along those same lines, when you did an audit of the season and the Super Bowl, you guys were a great offense during the regular season.
Yeah.
Drake's MVP runner-up. In the playoffs, it seemed to take maybe a little bit of a step back.
Yeah.
Is that, young guys in big spots, great defenses?
Well,
like
we did.
what?
I mean, you obviously know what the type of defenses that we play.
Right.
It wasn't like we were playing some rum-dums. These guys were good, and we didn't consistently do enough. I thought there were times where we did, and we weren't able to sustain. And we'll have to go back and understand that to put yourself in those positions and ultimately win a championship, you're going to have to beat good defenses, whether that's at home or on the road or whatever that is. So the consistency of it, the ability to create some X plays, it's hard to drive the ball 10 or 12 plays and, just have to be better, have to, improve the details and improve the execution. And, again, we're all involved in it. From the coaching to the playing, it's on us all, and that'll be our challenge going forward. We had success, and there was some really good performances, but the margin for error when you get into January really shrinks.
Well, Coach, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
for
guys. I
stopping by.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. We'll see you back in Foxborough. Mike Vrabel, everybody.
see you.
Yeah, you guys should ask more questions when you come back.
All right, always great to talk to Vrabel. I mean, he busts
Yes.
our chops a little bit, but that's,
That continued. We have video evidence of it, of him making fun of me for not asking enough questions at press conferences. So I guess I need to step it up,
I told a quick story of my first combine in 2020. We saw Vrabel sitting with the Titans. I'm like, my God, their head coach just comes and talks to the team.
Yes.
It was crazy to me. And, now here we are having the opportunity to talk to him here on Patriots Draft Countdown, which is brought to you by Bud Light. It's easy to drink. It's easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. And we're not done, folks. We also talked to another, I guess I'd call him a New England great. It's Mike Reiss, the GOAT of Patriots reporters. Always enjoy talking with Mike. It feels like just not too long ago we were talking to him at the Super Bowl. So here's Mike Reiss's thoughts on the Patriots offseason and what they might prioritize. All right, we're excited now to be joined by Mike Reiss, of course, man who needs no introduction. Mike, great to see you.
Deuce, Evan.
I love the energy.
Let's talk.
I got to start, Mike, because I feel like we talked to you at the Super Bowl it feels like it was yesterday.
I love that talk.
And you had a line in that preview that stuck with me. It hit me like a freight train when you said it. And you just looked at the defensive line of Seattle, and you said, these are a bunch of veteran players. And that was so simplified it to me, and that is kind of exactly how the game unfolded.
Oh, man. And credit to Nick Caserio, is because when I was previewing the game with him for a story on ESPN.com, I said, break down the Seahawks. And we know from 24 years of Bill Belichick would come to the podium and he'd give us the other team without any notes, right? And Nick did that, and he started with the Seahawks defensive front. And so I have to give him the credit, because honestly, it's not me studying it like 17 regular season games, 3 playoff games, and coming up with this brilliant plan of what's going to unfold. It was more talking to the experts that I trust.
But you were a conduit, and I think it simplified it, and unfortunately,
It's exactly how it played out.
And I think back to the Patriots defenses, in 03 and 04, when they were a veteran group, when it was like you're going in this game with Mike Vrabel, Teddy Bruschi, William. You just knew that those guys were going to come to play in the biggest games.
And I want to share a story from the year with Morgan Moses, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Morgan Moses is 34, 35 years old, a veteran in the league, and he was talking to me about how much he likes Will Campbell and Jared Wilson. And in sharing this story with me, he said, like, they're kids. Like, and he then described himself and said, it wasn't until I was 24, 25 that just physically I could catch up to what I was facing in the NFL. And we talked about Trent Williams still doing it at 37, 38, 39 years old. Morgan wants to come back, by the way. Like, that's part of the whole conversation we were having. But I remembered him telling me that, thinking about the Super Bowl, and like, wow, they are going to be relying on these kids that need another offseason to get stronger and build up their what they have, to go up against these guys that have been in the league for 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, I saw you reported yesterday that no surgery expected for Will Campbell, and that's good news. But I thought that was something that stood out from Elliott Wolf yesterday, was him saying, I didn't see the same lower body strength in the playoffs from him and from the regular season. What's just your sense, though, just in terms of their approach this offseason? And I think a lot of us are asking the same questions of, are you now in more of an expedited situation because you did make the Super Bowl, or do you think they're still in that long-term approach?
Definitely. So you highlighted to me, Evan, the most interesting thing I heard yesterday, which was that view of Will Campbell.
Yeah.
Like, we thought he played well before the injury, then we didn't see the same ability to anchor.
Right.
Which I think people listening might ask the question, well, then why did you play him?
Yeah.
And then I think the answer to that, and I'm going to deduce this, they haven't said this, they still felt like Will at that level was better than the next option, which was Vidarian Lowe.
Yeah.
And I think I would have played this. I would have done it if you're asking me the same way. But that's a fair question, right? In terms of the approach, I believe it comes down to the money. I always believe it comes down to the money. I think Christian Gonzalez being eligible for an extension is everything. That's where it should start. I think Drake being eligible next year at this time has got to be in your long-range view. So I don't expect them to come out and spend like a big deal unless it's just a perfect scenario.
Yeah.
For example, the Raiders say, you know what, this Max Crosby, you can have him for minimal compensation, and then you can assume that contract. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, no, you did. But I just, in terms of just how you feel about it too, like, do you think that they should take that approach? Because I think that a lot of fans hear that and are going to be a little bit disappointed that they're not going to just now go for it, right? You're one win away from the Super Bowl last year, but I actually kind of see it and say, I actually think that that's probably the smart thing to do, because you really kind of have to treat it like you almost had like a nice season, like, like a 9-win, 10-win season. But the way that it broke for them, it probably was the reason why they got as far as they did.
Yes.
And I think you have to be kind of realistic about that at the same time. Would you agree with that?
100%. It's being honest with, are you a Super Bowl team?
Right.
Like they were this year, based on AFC being down a little bit. Give them credit too. They learn how to win games. Like, I don't think that should be dismissed. I don't love when people say, oh, fool's gold, for lack of a better term. Like, that's BS to me. Like, that's not fool's gold. It's hard to win. It's hard to go 9-0 on the road. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it's going to be a lot harder in 2026.
That's what I was going to say, Mike. It's just, it seems there's a lot of hard decisions this year, because it would be somewhat easy to run it back. I mean, Chase On's a free agent, Austin Hooper, Jalen Hawkins, a few starters, and guys that you could make an argument to bring all those guys back, that they fit well, that they played better as the season went on. But all the offensive linemen are coming back, so there's no easy there's a hole here, and you're going to have to probably move some pieces around, and you're not going to bring back the same team next year. It's going to be a different team. I think everybody has to realize that.
It'll be a different team. I feel like, to build off what we're talking about, another solid draft is mandatory. Mm-hmm. And I guess, to me, that's going for it. Yeah. It's like having another solid draft. And I know that's not sexy, but as we're sitting here, I want to use an example from 21, 22 years ago. Like, go find the first-round pick that you made in 2005 at pick 32, go find that player this year. Logan Mankins is who I'm talking about. I think everyone watching knows that. You're at 31. That's going for it to me. Like, I know that's not traditional going for it.
Yeah.
But I want a nasty, athletic, mean, big player up front.
Yeah.
Helps Will Campbell. You add a little bit of size maybe next to him. I think it's something that we've talked about too.
Yeah.
Easy way, maybe that's a simple fix. And where does Jared Wilson end up?
Who is it, Evan? I know I don't mean to put you on the spot.
So Pregnon from Oregon really does fit that bill. He's a left guard at Oregon, pure guard prospect, not one of these tackles that's going to convert inside. He's a wider body. He's a heavy-handed guy. Not quite as big as Big Mike. Not that sort of size, but similar kind of player. The other guy that stands out to me in that particular mold, who is going to convert from tackle to guard, is Jennings Dunker from Iowa, who is, like, to me, a Mike Vrabel kind of guy.
He looks like he's got a mullet and everything, right?
31 for him or too rich?
That's probably a little high.
Yeah.
But he's one of those guys that, there's a really good track record of moving college tackles to guard. Yep. Logan Mankins was one of them. Joe Tooney was one of those guys.
Yep.
And those guys have a lot of success in the league. And Dunker, just the way he looks, the play demeanor, the style, the run blocking ability, all those things to me do really scream Mike Vrabel, that kind of guy.
And I just want to use the Seahawks as an example. Like, they're the Super Bowl champion, and we're talking about this idea of going for it. Like last year, they were Gray Zabel in the first round.
Right.
I mean, is that not going for it? I mean, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just sort of, for me, I like to reframe.
Another guy that played tackle in college, by the way. Gray Zabel, and moved inside. You mentioned Christian Gonzalez.
Yes.
Where are you at in terms of that negotiation extension? Elliot Wolf yesterday, I felt like kind of was like, we'll get to it. It wasn't like something that we're going to do this week sort of deal.
Yeah, so I have a theory. I watched that interview with you and Matt, and I thought it was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
And I wanted to be
Not
prepared.
that excellent, though. Maybe.
Yeah, we missed the champ here.
I wanted to be prepared coming here. I think it's semantics when he's talking like that, because technically they can't talk about it until the new league year starts. So we're a little early. I mean, they have to be aware of it, obviously, but he can't really.
Because he's still technically in his.
We're still technically in 2020.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm not naive to think that that's not on their mind, that there's some idea of what the ballpark is going to be, of where they're going to need to be. But I think for him, it's early to be talking about it at this point until we get to the start of the new league.
Yeah, it did feel like. I mean, Vrabel came out and said it at the end of the season. It felt like Vrabel wasn't totally sold on him at the beginning, and then we heard a different tone from him in the playoffs. Did you get that same vibe too?
How about you and me standing next to each other in Denver? After the AFC Championship game, doing the interviews with Coach and the players, and I think you were right next to me when he said about Christian Gonzalez. Said maybe after the Baltimore game, December 21st, if I have the date right off the top of my head, that he noticed a different player, a different approach, or however he had said it. And my whole view on this is we don't need to overcomplicate it. This regime has, to this point, proven to us, if you have an elite player, like, there's not really a question of, like, we want to keep him. And so I feel like until they show us otherwise, like, I'm not really questioning where this is going to go.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's going to happen.
I got one more for you, Mike. We talk about the needs for the Patriots, and it seems like everyone's like, well, they need a number one, and we got Stephon Diggs last year. We had a really good year, tapered off towards the end, admittedly. But people are longing for this guy, and now there seems like a significant portion that's like, we're done with him. And then on the same other side of their mouth, they're saying, but we need a number one. And it just, well, who and how? And it's so hard, and I'm getting so frustrated because it just becomes, they need a number one. Who? How do they get one of these top 5 receivers in the league? They don't just grow on trees.
I don't know how. Is there a trade for someone like a Brian Thomas? That's one that just sort of just throw it out there, right? If played really well as a rookie, maybe not, the production wasn't as great as second year. Would the Jaguars be willing to part with him and maybe for something reasonable? That would be something I would consider, Deuce. but I'm just speculating. I don't know anything about that. I think on Diggs, follow the money. Like, isn't it that simple? Like, he's making this in 2025. It goes way up in 2026. The cap number goes way up. And so the team has to just have a conversation of, do we want to move forward? Like, so I always follow the money, and I don't know where it's going to head. I thought he was great this year. He did everything they asked for. He was great in the locker room. One of my favorite personal players just because of his competitive spirit. So I could see that going either way, Deuce, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that they do in free agency that would be a little splashy, a little exciting, where do you kind of see position, target, anything like that?
That's a good one.
Number 1 wide receiver.
I know, right? Who
I don't know. I just like to say it.
Like, is that Alec Pierce?
Yeah.
Like, and he's going to get tagged.
And A.J. Brown. Everyone want to talk about A.J. Brown. And
I know this is the time of year where we start talking about all these guys, and then Kyle Pitts gets the tag. It sounds like George Pickens is going to get the tag. Alec Pierce is probably going to get tagged, and they all just kind of.
So here's my hot take. I'm going to give you a hot take.
Yeah, that's what I want. There we go.
If there's a big splash, it wouldn't be free agency. It'd be more of a trade. Mm-hmm. You know, like that idea of you never know what a team is willing to move on from a player for. And I would say I don't see the Patriots doing a Micah Parsons or a Sauce Gardner type trade. They're not giving up 2 1s and a big contract. But if a team has an attractive player that, and I don't know if Quinnen Williams would be that level, but like a 1 and maybe something else, like I'm not saying I don't think it's going to happen. Like if you're asking me to bet, is that going to happen? No, but you asked the question, like what would be the splash? That would be the splash without knowing that what another team would be willing to give up a player for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean that's always this time of year, right?
That's
trying to
this is where the conversations happen, right?
Yeah. Who's the trade that's going to come out of nowhere this offseason that we don't see coming? Because we talk so much about Crosby and A.J. Brown and those players, but there's always one guy that's available that nobody even knows about, and all of a sudden he's on a different team.
Can we throw out the Brian Thomas? Just
Yeah.
more for your opinion. 1, do you think he's a number 1?
I think he's dynamic in the way of a number 1, but I get caught up. I have a thing with number 1 to all this stuff, but I think he's a really, I'm looking at everything through Drake now and what serves Drake. Downfield guys that can separate downfield and make big plays, and I think he would fit the mold. I just don't know if he's going to scratch the itch of we need a number 1. Well, he's okay. He had a good year, but he's kind of fallen off recently.
I think you're right on, Deuce, in terms of like the expectation of what's possible. What do you think of Brian?
I think the concern that I have with him is more about some of the things that were on the film last year in terms of effort. Mm-hmm. Like there were times last year where the routes just didn't look like he was kind of going through the paces a little bit, right? Where he wasn't showing great effort all the time. Now, is Mike Vrabel the exact kind of coach that is going to hit the button and get on his butt to show that effort consistently? When they were, drafting Drake May, I went down to LSU as well for the pro day with Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels threw to Malik Neighbors, and he threw to Brian Thomas Jr. at his pro day. And I just remember thinking, these two guys are different. Like, these guys can run. Deuce mentioning the downfield ability, the slot fade, and, those condensed fades by those two guys are probably their best routes. They were just majestic. Like, you just watch them move on the field, and I was like, this is different. And so I would be for it in that sense because I do think that he's like a rare type of talent. Yeah. I just wonder, and maybe the Patriots have the perfect head coach for it, how can Mike Vrabel kind of get him to give that Diggs kind of effort? Because I think that's the difference between Diggs that people don't talk enough about is his competitiveness and his full tilt all the time. Somebody needs to get Brian Thomas Jr. there. And if you do, then I think you have like a prolific 1,000-yard receiver.
So those are the fun things. So that's my hot take. Hot take, Reiss.
Well, there it is, Reiss. Thanks so much for sitting down with us. This was great.
I love being with you guys.
We just talked to you at the Super Bowl. I feel like we need to check in with you in a couple weeks, but enjoy the rest of the Combine.
Great being with you guys. Thank you.
All right, great stuff from Mike, as always.
As always.
I could sit and talk with, we could talk with Mike Reiss for football forever. I guess
throwing Brian Thomas Jr. out there, by the way. I mean, when Mike Reiss, I told this story, I think, at the Super Bowl, when we had him on at Radio Row. I was standing next to him in Denver in the press conferences after the AFC Championship game. And he asked Drake May about his shoulder. And I was like, why is Mike Reiss asking Drake May about his shoulder? And then the whole shoulder gate, comes after that. So him throwing Brian Thomas Jr. just on a whim out there. I was like, oh, noted.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, explosive player. I mean,
yeah.
Not intriguing to add that kind of skill set with Drake May. But, hey, we are just getting started here at the Combine in Indy. Day one in the books of positional groups. And, of course, we got workouts coming up. So, you're going to be all over those. You're going to write up, who's
Absolutely.
standing out, who's maybe not working out.
Who has short arms,
who has
long
arms, short legs, long
big
legs,
hands,
medium legs.
wingspan.
We got it all for you, folks, this week. And tomorrow we'll hear from the defensive backs. We'll be back. More interviews and more coverage here from the Combine in Indianapolis.